Okay, good evening everybody, and thank you so much for coming. This is the biggest audience we've ever had for a talk, so, and given it's deep winter and prospects of a big storm coming, it's really fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm Norman Jackson, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the team leader of something we're calling the 4Bs Biodiversity Initiative, and several members of our team are here tonight with us. Do you want to just show your hands who's here? I think it's just Simon at the moment, yeah, but a couple more may be joining us later. And we've been sponsoring a programme of talks and other events during the last year, and this is clearly one of those talks. And we picked tonight, because January is obviously the month of the great British Birdwatch, the RSPB Birdwatch, which you'll hear more about later. In fact, it starts tomorrow and goes through the weekend, and we really want to encourage as many people as possible from the 4Bs to join in and spot your birds and try and share your results, so that we build up a picture, our own picture of the birds in this area, and also contribute to the National Survey. So that's really why tonight's talk is so important. It's like a little bit of a warm-up for that event. Now, just remembered, Valerie, you were going to say
I'm here, yes.
You were there, thank you. Valerie, just wanted to say a few words before I actually introduce Glenn.
Quick, but some food for birds. I'm holding this up on behalf of our Horticultural Society that covers the same area as your group. We have a talk on the earthworm at Brockham Village Hall, Monday, 17th of February, 7:30 until 9, I would say. If you're not a member, you're still very welcome. There is a charge, I'm afraid. It's £3 for members, £5 for non-members. That's the Monday, 17th of Feb, in the evening at Brockham Village Hall, about the earthworm. I will pop this up with the prints. There's a couple of other ones I printed off. So if you're interested and not sure, it'll be over there.
Very important earthworms, aren't they?
Yeah, well, yes. For all of us, one way or another. So I'll leave that up there.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Norman.
Very welcome. Okay, and without further ado then, I'd like to introduce our speaker tonight. I'm really delighted that Glenn Carmichael has kindly agreed to give us this talk. He's a local lad, he lives in Brockham, he knows this area very, very well, and he's the leader of the RSPB Dorking branch. So his knowledge, I know, it goes over many, many years. I think he'll, in his introduction, he'll say something about his own background. But it's really delightful. It's not only is Glenn giving the talk tonight, he's going to lead a walk at Buckland Park Lake on Sunday the 2nd of February. If you'd like to join us, there are still a few places left. There's some sign-up sheets here which you can just put your name against and an email address or phone number, and you'll have a place on that walk. Anyway, so Glenn, I don't know very much about you. It's our first meeting tonight, but I'm really looking forward to your talk.
No, my pleasure. Good evening, everyone. As he said, I'm Glenn. I'm actually from Newcastle, so it's the first time I've been described as a local boy in Surrey. As Noah says, I've probably been bird watching since my 40s, but as a kid, I was fascinated with animals. When I was about 10 or 11, I made my own way to London Zoo and became a young zoologist type. I was that interested. But then life kind of got in the way, and it was after a weekend of realising that I'd been working all week, indoors all weekend, I decided I needed to get out and do something, and I picked up an old pair of binoculars, and what I started as a hobby, but my young lady considers is an obsession, was born. So I'm going to talk about the birds and in this area. I'm going to cover a little bit about the RSPB, talk about the birds in the area, and I've structured it around the residents, the winter visitors, the summer visitors, and in terms of the residents, how they kind of spread across habitats. But one of the great things about birds is that they haven't read the book. So you can see a peregrine on the chalk cliffs and in the woods and on the farm. You know, they do what they do. Talk about the birds, touch on the Big Garden Bird Watch, and then talk a bit about the Dorking District Global Group, part of the RSPB, which I'm the leader of. Can I have a show of hands? Anyone a mad keen bird watcher? Thank goodness, you won't correct any of the things I get wrong. Anyone watch their birds in the garden, enjoy birds? Yes, good. Any questions, just stop me to ask. No one's asked me to do about 45 minutes. I'll try to keep to 45 minutes, but once I get started, it's kind of difficult. But stop me if you ask, but there'll be 15 minutes at the end for questions, and I think there'll be tea and coffee, won't there, at the end, so anyone can ask me now or as a group or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm going to cover. The RSPB, some of the RSPB founders back in the 1800s they were all women, and it's often overlooked. One of them, what was her name? Lemon, Mrs. Lemon, is buried in Reigate Cemetery. So she was local, and it was set up. They were appalled at how many birds were being destroyed for ladies' hats. The egret feathers and the peacocks and all that kind of stuff blasted out of the sky for a little bit of elegance. And it was that group of ladies that started what is now the largest nature conservation organisation in the UK. I'm pointing at the laptop. I can point this. Big charity. It has, as well as the core charity and the nature reserves, which you may be familiar with, there's a whole range. I think there's over 100 local groups around the UK that provide local support and services. Some of them raise money for reserves. Some of them are more about members and engagement. And us in Dorking, it's all about engaging with people, helping people enjoy nature, talks and walks and that kind of stuff. That's RSPB's main goals and focus. Actually, talking to Norman asked me, and I brought it somewhere, a bird list for... Did I send it to you on email?
No.
I will send it to you on email. It was an interesting challenge pulling together a list of the things you like to see. So I went to a website, I think it was Surrey Birds website, and there's a total of 322 different species have been seen in Surrey. Some of them once every 10 years, so... but I had a quick look at the ones that I see regularly, so that I call that fairly common. And there's still 120 different species that pop up in Surrey. So we're going to be here for 15 hours while I talk about them. No, I promise we won't. But it's also worth pointing out that there's a load of resources we can use. There's BirdTrack and eBird, which give you a list of, if you're bird watching on a site, they'll give you a list of what's likely to be there. It lets you, instead of a notebook, it lets you record it on your phone, what you've seen, which goes to their citizen science. There's all sorts of spreadsheets with lists of birds and so on. So, let's talk about the resident birds. Our favourite bird, the robin, our robin. One of the really fascinating things about robin is that there's a massive influx in the winter. We all think it's our robin and he's there all the time. But when it gets really cold and hard in Europe, we get more and more robins appearing in our gardens. So he's sometimes there, robin, but who can tell? But a favourite. The Big Garden Birdwatch, which we'll come to, has shown that over the last few years, although a lot of the birds' numbers have declined, the house sparrow, the favourite house sparrow, is still the most populous, the most commonly occurring bird in gardens across the UK. In Surrey, actually, it's a good bird to see. I do not see house sparrows every time I'm out. And one of its favourite brother, the tree sparrow, is now completely extinct in Surrey. It's no longer present in Surrey, which is a bit of a shame, but farming practices, Two more favourites. These are two common thrushes, the blackbird and the song thrush. I particularly like the blackbird, and I would play you its song, except Brockham isn't famous for its internet connection, and it's not letting me do that now, which is a shame. If you bear with me for 2 minutes and I'll go for another route. Just fantastic. I confess that being a mad keen bird watcher, I still sometimes reliably mix up a robin with a blackbird. I shouldn't, I don't know why, but I do. Actually, I had meant to play the song thrush. Anyone know song thrush? And the song? It'd help if I could type it in properly. It's famous for repeating the same, different but the same call 3 times. Never understood why the blackbird isn't the song blackbird and the song thrush isn't the monotonous one. But they named them all in the medieval times and it makes no sense to me. At Dunnock, used to be called a hedge sparrow, but it's not a sparrow at all. It's the UK's only accentor, which is a whole different genre of birds. According to Sir David, National Treasure, Sir David Attenborough, it has the most promiscuous sex life. And it's worth watching his Life of Birds to hear about it, but we have ladies present, so I'm not going to. There's a whole collection of the residents, which are the tits. And this is a great tit with the black stripe and the yellow. You probably know, the blue tit. I adore that photograph. I stole it from the RSPB. They've molted over the winter and are now in fantastic colour at the moment. They're beautiful to see. And here's some more different ones, which you probably see, you certainly can see in Surrey. I have a word of advice, which is, if you want photographs of these birds, don't type in great tits into the internet to get pictures. Or marsh tits, either, don't you? Anyway, you can see all of these in your garden as well. The coal tit, which is much smaller, and at the moment is looking stunning with the pale beigey tummy and the badger stripe on the back of the neck. Marsh tit, there is also a willow tit that looks a lot like that, but they're very, very rare and restricted largely to the Midlands. But we have marsh tits in Surrey. And the long-tailed tit, probably my favourite. Someone once told me that the long-tailed tit, it's a bit like a flying teaspoon. If you see it fly, it's fantastic. They're fantastic birds. And a couple of other residents from our gardens, the starling and the pied wagtail, which are lovely. I was lucky enough this weekend to go to Glastonbury, and down near Glastonbury is RSPB Ham Wall. Has anyone been to? They also call it the Avalon Marshes, but they have in the winter they have a murmuration. You know, when all the starlings flock together, of some 400,000 starlings, and it's truly amazing. In the crowd watching it, you could hear people genuinely gasp, like with fireworks. It was that stunning. And if anyone's interested, I'll show you on my phone some of the videos. Just take videos. So we have them in our garden too. All residents across the rest of the habitats, touched on gardens, woodlands, farmlands. All of these we've got within the 4Bs. Which is great because it means I don't have to talk about waders. Thank goodness. Some classic woodland birds. Everyone recognise these? Not quite our smallest bird, but very nearly our smallest bird is the goldcrest. Its cousin, which is the smallest bird, is a firecrest. And you don't tell the difference by the colour of the crest, weirdly. Because both of them can have yellow or orange crests that can look very different. But the firecrest has the most extravagant Egyptian eye makeup, like big white stripes and black. Fantastic birds. But we've got a great spotted woodpecker, a nuthatch, and a tree creeper, probably one of my favourites, all of which you find in the woodlands. We occasionally, and I mean really occasionally, and I've never seen one, have the lesser spotted woodpecker as well. They're like wet woodland. They used to pop up on Buckland Common, but I've never seen one in the UK. They're so rare now. Whole bunch of finches. I know this isn't in the area, but there's in Send, there's a farm that this year has grown sunflower seeds, and I think it was too wet for them to harvest it, so there's a bunch of sunflowers, just hundreds of acres of sunflowers not being used at all, except by hundreds of chaffinches and wood pigeons and jackdaws. But it was stunning to see the chaffinches all over the sunflowers, with the odd brambling mixed in from north. Some of the prettiest and beautiful finches, the bullfinch, still I think considered a pest because they were prone to eating blossoms for apples, which was a problem when people, when that was agriculturally important. Goldfinch prefer small seeds, chaffinches will eat almost anything as a seed. The greenfinch, who I think always look a bit cross. Not as cross as the hawfinch, but they kind of have a frown line, I think. There's a hawfinch who looks really furious. We've had an influx over the winter, because it's got cold, of hawfinches, better numbers than I've ever known. And you do get them in forests, so Effingham Forest has them, and I'm sure there's other forests around in your 4Bs where you can get good views of the hawfinch. In the woodlands, my two favourite corvids, crows, or the crow family, magpie and jay, make great noises, easily recognised, black and white, long tail, the pink, blue, white, black of the jay, just fantastic bird. And it's relatively easy to identify birds when they're so stunning and colourful. Bit more of a problem when they're all black, as you probably all know. The calls are important. I have spent a lot of time out bird watching trying to persuade myself that a big crow is a raven until it opens its mouth. And then you're sure. If the raven opens its mouth, it's obvious. Because the raven says cronk, cronk, and the crow does not. Jackdaws, very pretty, very smart, silvery hood. We like silver hoods. And a yellow eye. And they're named because of their call. Like the cuckoo, they're named because they go jack, 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 if you listen to them. So we've got the raven, we've got the carrion crow, very common, and on agricultural fields a lot, you find a rook. And you can see how different their profile is, their beak with the white. And once you get your eye in, you can't miss a raven, and you can't, the beak of the rook stands right out. Pigeons and doves. Woodland, farmland, they appear all the time. In our area, we can get hundreds of wood pigeons because they come over from Europe and will enjoy stubble and empty farmland fields at this time of year. So these are a bit trickier. There's some trickier ones here. You'll recognise the wood pigeon with the smart white collar up in the top, and the collared dove. When I was growing up, there weren't collared doves. They arrived in the 50s and 60s, and the numbers grew and grew and grew. And now you can kind of see them everywhere from Europe. Top one is a feral pigeon, or some people like to style them as flying rats, but that's slightly unkind. But Trafalgar Square is, but you see them all over the place, and they can be all sorts of manky colours. black and splotchy, and they get mixed up with domestic pigeons and all kind of stuff. The bottom one is a bit more interesting. It's a stock dove. And you see stock doves quite a lot in Surrey across agricultural fields. They're slimmer. It's hard, in the good sunlight, the colour is distinct from the wood pigeon. They're more darker, bluey, charcoal grey and slimmer than the big fat wood pigeon. And you will see them out on agricultural land. And it's one of those first ones that got me addicted when I could actually tell the difference. Because it's not straightforward. So also on farmland, you'll find the famous black-headed gull, that are one of the smallest gulls, and as you can see, sometimes with no black head. And if you look closely, actually its head isn't black, it's brown. So we can blame those medieval guys who named these things again. The mix here is summer, breeding plumage with a nice brown head, winter with the white head with like little black earphones. And some juveniles, and half between winter and summer. And we'll start to see them coming out of winter plumage and start to be patchy and start to get their chocolate hoods at this time of year. And you do see them playing fields, farmland, scattered around all over the place. You can also see inland on fields, the top one there, the common gull. And it's named common not because there's a lot of them, but they frequent common land in Scotland. That's where they got their name from. The other mix of gulls here, I just put them there for comparison. I did a gull identification course. It shows how nerdy I am. And to help crack gulls, they gave us Wibble, wings, head, beak, legs. And that's how you work through identifying gulls. You start with the wings, and the trick with the common gull, which looks a bit friendly and charming at the top there, is you see how far he sticks out at the back? That's his wings. He has longer wings, proportionately, than the other ones. So he looks kind of lopsided when you see them sticking out. Makes it very easy to find them in a big group of gulls. The other thing, we've got a great black-backed gull here, enormous, very black wings. Lesser black-backed, darker and herring gull with the paler, more silvery wings. And then head, shape and beak. You see the yellow and the size of the beak and the different colours. And then legs, and you get pink legs on the herring gull and the greater black-backed gull, and yellow legs on the lesser black-backed gull. That's enough about gulls. I can see you glazing over, actually. Move on quickly, Glenn. We do get owls. Don't often see them. Tawny owl at the top, very nocturnal. Don't often see them. Did you know? Because they're the classic. Twit twoo, tawny owl. Did you know that he says twit, and she says ooh, and he says twit, she says ooh. So you're hearing an owl go twit twoo. There's two of them. There's always two of them. Barn owl, much less melodic, also known as the screech owl, for obvious reasons. Very beautiful though, when you see them over the fields. And this far one, much more uncommon, tends to come in the winter. It's a short-eared owl. And we can see them, we can definitely see them. They're here now on Staines Moor. They're here now in North Kent. Sometimes they're on Paper Court near Send. Anywhere where there's voles, they can turn up in the winter. The RSPB, or the BTO, British Trust for Ornithology, has tracked short-eared owls, and they can track them from Europe, flying directly to where the biggest, most dense population of voles is. And the BTO has no idea how they know where the voles are, but they fly direct to, and they pick their ground. It'll be different every year. I think amongst these, I think that's my photograph. I'm slightly obsessed with taking good photographs of short-eared owls. We get birds of prey. They cover all of the area. I was just saying today I was out with a friend down at Pulborough Brooks, which isn't far from here. Really nice. We were there to see the white-tailed eagles, which we got, which was a result. We were talking in the hide as a buzzard flew over, and I can remember when I started, so less than 20 years ago, you know, no buzzards in Surrey at all. So they've done really well to bounce back. And I understand that it was because of the pesticides and DDT problems that meant their eggs fragile, like with peregrines, so the numbers dropped to nothing in Surrey, and you'd have to travel to Dorset to see a buzzard. But they've come right back, they bounced right back. Same with the red kites that have been the product of a reintroduction programme. They were down to a handful in Wales, and someone ran a reintroduction programme to get their numbers back up. And I see them in my garden, probably everyone's seen them around the farmland. Fantastic birds. People sometimes wonder how on earth I identify them when they're so tiny and so far away. But they're the only birds I know that do this with their wings and that with their tails. If you watch them flying, there's nothing else flies quite like that with such pointy wings. Kestrel, the motorway bird, we've seen them up and down, but they're commoner and commoner around the area. And the sparrowhawk, quite similar size to the kestrel, and can be quite different, but it'd be quite difficult to identify them. The kestrel is the only one that hovers. If it's hovering and still, it's kestrel. Sparrowhawk, much more direct flight. Broader wings, less pointy wings. It's a hawk, not a falcon. And famously, the sparrowhawk does flat, flat glide. Flat, flat glide. And none of the others do that. So if you see one that looks like a kestrel and is going flat, flat glide, then it's a sparrowhawk. The other success is goshawk. I don't have a photo here, but the goshawk's numbers are going right up. They're on Leith Hill, they're in Effingham Forest, and I'm sure we'll be seeing goshawks appear around this area at some point. My favourite, we talked about chalk quarries, but you could also talk about cathedrals and churches. They like the church in Redhill, they like Dorking Church. One of the girls in the group regularly visits the bottom of the St Martin's Church in Dorking and collects the bits and pieces that the roosting peregrines drop around of various things. She keeps the racing pigeons very quiet. But she's found lapwing, quail, godwit, and of course the St Martin's Church is the perfect spot because all these birds coming backwards and forwards have to fly through that gap in the downs, the North Downs. So they fly through, making it basically a peregrine buffet, and they nest in the chalk quarries. It's been relatively successful. I think the last 2 years, it's hard to believe, but people have robbed the nest for the eggs. Whether they're selling the eggs or collectors, but what someone was caught abseiling down the cliff. Actually, I was from a very good distance watching the peregrine nests, and they weren't about. And I heard what I thought was a drone, sort of I thought some bugger's flying drones, and it was actually a peregrine stooping. And it's the only time I've ever heard that it, you know, when they stoop and just dive, and their feathers, just amazing noise. So rivers and lakes, weird ducks. I'm always being asked, what is that? And generally speaking, I have no idea. It's a weird duck. They hybridise freely and randomly. There's some farmyard ones, there's some muscovy duck, there's mixes of mallards, but they get mixed up with each other. We've been brought up with horses and donkeys and mules. A mule is always sterile, so species don't interbreed. If they do, it's always sterile. Not so with ducks. The horse and the donkey are very different. They look the same, but they're very different genetically. Ducks aren't, so they do it all the time. And there's a whole bunch of interesting hybrids. The WWT, the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust, has a beautiful duck guide. You can see the quality of their photos. I think we'll probably see all of these pop up, just some of my favourites. Pintails prefer the coast, but we got a load of them down in Pulborough. You see the male with the elegant tail? Shoveler. You can spot them a mile away, the male with the brown and the white and the green head. And if you get a sight of that enormous beak, you can't miss it. Gadwell, the most elegant. It's like an evening wear. The black rear end and this grey thing. They're a different shape from the others for looking a bit like I think a battleship, so they're longer bodies. And the most unusual one, an occasional summer visitor, it's a garganay with a white stripe. It visits in the summer. Most of the other ducks visit in numbers in the winter. So the garganay comes from Africa. But what a stunning bird.
Sorry, what was the one on the bottom there?
Gadwall. G-A-D-W-A-L-L.
Oh.
I'm a bird watcher and I'm dyslexic, so don't quote me. My daughter is dyslexic, very dyslexic. And she blames me. She blames me because it's either environment or upbringing, and both are my fault. Some geese, we'll see geese, we'll see the Egyptian geese, which really shouldn't be here. Their home is Egypt, but they've successfully broken out of collections and you often come across them. They nest in trees. It's very weird seeing you walk and hearing a geese and it's up in the trees. Canada geese shouldn't be here. They should go home. They should be in Canada. I think it was 2 years ago, over in the wet fields at the back of Betchworth, there was actually white-fronted geese, which migrate here from Siberia, and they have they're white-fronted from the top of their beak. You see the white nose thing? And they have these wonderful black sort of tiger stripes around their belly. Just stunning, only in the winter, and I drove to Betchworth, walked through the mud to find the white-fronted geese. Some others from rivers and wetlands. The not yellow wagtail, it's a grey wagtail, but I swear it's yellower than the yellow wagtail because of the contrast between the grey and the yellow. A cormorant, we'll see cormorants come in, much to a fisherman's horror. Lots of little egrets on the streams and things. I know Leatherhead, we've got them. I like this photo because you can see its yellow feet. Sometimes they're covered in mud, so they don't quite show up, but very elegant. Grey heron, tufted duck, which is the black and white one. That's him, rather than her, who's not quite so elegant. So some winter visitors. The winter visitors, generally speaking, come here because it's worse somewhere else. So this one, which is a redwing, another thrush. The redwing comes from Scandinavia, and when it gets cold and hard there, then they'll come here. And we've had a good year for them and for field fairs. When you've seen one on your holly in the garden with the stripy white face, and you can see under the wing the bright red, they take your breath away. They're wonderful birds. Very elegant field fare, quite a lot bigger. Another thrush comes from Scandinavia, enjoying the rowan berries you can see in the photograph. Very pretty with a spotty belly, just like a missel thrush, for example, but with the grey and the brown contrasting colours.
Is it the same size as a thrush?
It's quite a lot bigger than a song thrush, but it's about the size of a missel thrush. If you know, they're kind of, how do I describe it? They're song thrush on steroids. And the redwing is about the size of a song thrush or a blackbird.
Yes, I've seen the
Two very exotic winter visitors. The brambling, often mixed in with flocks of chaffinch. Over here on the right, will pop up, and there was it last year? Last year there was 200 bramblings in the farm over the other side of the A24. So from Dorking to Reigate, where the old Reigate Road is, that farm that goes up to Boxhill, and some of the photographers and birdwatchers were so badly behaved, the farmers now put up a big fence so no one can go there anymore, which is a shame. But it drew people in numbers because it was stunning to see that many of the bramblings.
What is it called?
Brambling.
Brambling.
Brambling, yep. Brambling. It's like bling as a bird goes, I suppose. Also last year, it got cold and hard in the Scandinavia, the waxwing. Waxwings don't do agriculture. Every time I've seen a waxwing, it's been in a council estate. What are they? Do they like deprivation? No. It's the big bright rowans that councils plant. So they're a very municipal bird. When they plant the rowan trees filled with colourful berries, you get it filled with waxwings in the winter. They're called the waxwing. It's not a great photo. You can't really see it. You see down on the wing, there's a white and a red. That red is like a little drop of wax, and they have 3 or 4 of these little. It's the end. I don't know actually what it is, but it looks like a little drop of wax, little red bead on the edge of the wing here, which is why they're called waxwings. But they have this wonderful colour and the crest. So there was I think there was 20 or 30 bird watchers in this little close, and one of the guys in the council house was taking photographs of the bird watchers, and they were then. So we're all ready for summer. I certainly am. Favourite, the cuckoo. Numbers are going down. Definitely appear in Buckham Common, and I'm sure we get them across the 4Bs. They like agricultural land. It's a lovely sound of summer when you hear them calling. There's a mix of they call them hirundines. My favourite place for sand martins is Buckland Lake, where we're doing the walk. February's too early for them, they'll be May. But they nest in the sandy sides, and you see them over the lake. At the earliest to arrive as sand martins, that's this one with a chin strap, and it's soft brown colour up in the top left-hand corner. Similar sort of size as the house martin. He appears a bit later, distinct for having a white rump. If you see a swallow flickering, black and white, it's almost certainly a house martin because they've got this white rump. Whoever took this photo of the swallow is just beautiful. The long streamers on the adult, juveniles don't have the long streamers. You can actually pick out, and so rarely can you do that, the light has to be so good, the white windows on the tail when it's opened its tail. And you can see the dark head and the red on the chin. Beautiful bird. Final one is the swift. Its Latin name is apoda, which is no feet. And people they sleep when they're flying. There's a kind of, the scientists call it micro sleeps. I don't know how they do that. I don't know. I can't do anything else when I'm sleeping. Two other favourites, some of the warblers who arrive in the summer. The black cap, that's a male, he has a black cap, and the female does not, she has a brown cap. Beautiful songster, beautiful singer. And the chiffchaff, who is another early arriver. Some of them are beginning to stay over winter. As climate changes and it gets milder and milder, the chiffchaff, the numbers are staying. every year I struggle to identify the chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff from the great tit, teacher, teacher, teacher. Then I get my ear in and I can tell them apart. The black cap is worth another sojourn to Glenn's foam. So forgive me again.
The black cap, they move, don't they? So although there's some of this, it's also a winter scope, because we get black caps coming from further north, so we see.
Yep, absolutely right. Yep, no, absolutely right. You can see them on the feeders when it's cold. Singing with all its heart, the classic warbler, sound of spring. There was a lovely bit of bird watching research. It sings very like a garden warbler, and they had 20 experts who could tell the difference, said they could tell the difference, to identify which was which in a blind listening, and they were wrong more often than they were right. Made me feel much better. They'll arrive in spring, and both of them, like you say, are overwintering. It's hard, we'll get extra ones in the winter.
Is the chiff-chaff as yellow? I seem to hear chiff-chaff, but I've never really...
Someone's taken it in the evening, the photos in the evening, so you can see them quite yellow, especially if the light is like that, because the feathers always do funny things. There's a paler one, which I won't burden you with, but you can see the eye stripe, but the dark legs is the trick with chiff-chaff. Now I don't know. This one's a nightingale, which is famous for its song. I was out one day in the evening to hear the nightingales, and bumped into a couple who'd gone to Brockham Common to hear the nightingales. It was a couple of years ago, and we were talking about it, and they'd come to see hear the nightingales as well. Fantastic. Do you know what one sounds like? No. Is that one? No, that's the black cap. Is that one? No, that's the... But I could play the nightingale song for them, and they could identify it. And this one's a garden warbler, which is notable for having no identifying features at all. It's as plain as you get in a warbler, but the one that sounds just like the black cap. So that's a run through the birds. Some thoughts on enjoying the birds. Binoculars are great. You get a better look. You can get up closer to them, but you don't need them. Your eyes are perfectly good, and your ears is one of the most important things. If you want to take it a bit further, bins are good to get a good look. If you think about buying bins, never buy them unless you can hold them in your hand and you can see with them. And it's very personal. If you've got glasses, if you want something bright, so make sure you know how to play. Don't get one that's too heavy because you're going to be carrying it around if you use it. So try them in your hand. There's a fantastic app on your phone called Merlin. Anyone got Merlin? Yeah, we got a good few. I've never used it for photos, but it's brilliant for birdsong. Some bird watchers will say it's cheating. I don't care. I really don't care. It's helped me get my brain moving and improved my identification of birdsong. When I get it mixed up or I get the chiff-chaff and great tip muddled up again, it will sort me out, Really, and it's free, so it's really, really useful. Although, actually, my favourite bird watching app is the Ordnance Survey map. I get lost much less often now when I'm out bird watching. I touched on the bird track and eBird for recording what you've seen, so you can track what you've seen in your garden or when you're out walking. And I'm a bit of a bird book nerd, so a good bird book is really helpful for sorting out what you're looking at. I love the birds of Europe because the drawings are so beautiful. But the go-to one, that's a much older edition, is the Collins Bird Guide. And I've actually got the book and I've got it on here, so I don't have to carry the book when I'm out. And of course, the book's no good for playing the bird song, which is what I was using. So I was using Collins' app to play the bird song for you earlier on. Right, big garden birdwatch. It's been going since the 1970s. I had no idea. It's probably the oldest citizen science project, before they were even called citizen science projects. 1 hour watching. Everyone can do it. Anyone can do it. You can do it online or offline. It's much, much cheaper for the RSPB if you do it online, because they don't have to handle paper and envelopes and forms. We've all got a garden. Mine doesn't look like that. Mine's much smaller and much less well organised. But it lets you, in your garden, add to what we know about birds. A quiet hour, looking at what's going on. It's dead simple. You don't try and count exactly how many there are. You only count how many you can see at one time. So that's the only rule. How many of this bird species can you see at one time? What's the most you can see at this one time? Which means the statistics are useful when you do that. Everyone does the same over the whole of the UK. Because you can add them up sensibly, because everyone's just doing the most you see at one time. Last year, 9.7 million birds were counted, 600,000 people did the bird watch, but the RSPB still wants more, so get out there, get up, do it. Starts on Friday, runs through Saturday and Sunday. You can register online, dead easy. The results from last year showed that the house sparrow is the most common sighting, followed by blue-tipped starling, wood pigeon, and blackbird. Not my experience, not my garden, but that's the numbers across. What's most important for the RSPB is how the numbers are changing over time. So they get a picture of declines and growth. It comes with a nice little, I think I've got some here, if anyone would like one. So you can easily involve the kids or tick off the ones and a little picture of the thing, what you're looking at, so you can get it right. There's also a big schools bird watch. You know, we talked about the schools. I did that with the one whose name I can't remember in Bear Green, the middle school. The Weald, yes, the Weald. I did it. The headmaster, I knew, he got me involved. They cleaned up their bird garden and had a bunch of 9 and 10-year-olds confidently identifying golden plovers. They've started up a bird club on the back of the big school's bird watch for them. Teachers love the idea. It teaches all sorts of things: looking, quiet, concentration, counting, all sorts of things for the level of the kids. And some teachers are much more expert than I am at bird watching, but an awful lot don't have the confidence. So if anyone's interested, they can always shout, ask me, I'll go and help. And us. The RSPB local group. We are part of the RSPB. Our bank account is the RSPB bank. You know, we have one within them. I've got our cards if anyone's interested. We've got a Facebook group, a website. We have a continually improving program of walks. They tend to be on Wednesdays or on Saturdays and Sundays. This Saturday, the walk was announced the walk's been in the calendar for 6 months, which is a walk to go and see short-eared owls. We didn't know where it was because we didn't know where the short-eared owls are, but now we know, so it's going to be North Kent, and the team's going to North Kent on Saturday to go and see short-eared owls. But we've done all marshes, we've done all over, local ones and far ones, a nice mix. Last year we even did a visit to the European bisons in Kent. You know, they've got a release programme for the bisons in Blean Woods in Kent. I know they're not birds, but we had 25 people sign up and we went to Blean Woods and had a ranger show us around. It was fantastic. I've been the leader for 2 years. I looked at the objectives. our objective, this is our objective, which is to help local people engage with nature. That's what we're here for. And some of that is for members, but it's also for everyone. It's a charitable organisation, so it has to be for everyone. So all the walks are open to anyone. There's a small charge. For non-members, members will go free. The talks are open to anyone, small charge, members can attend free. We do a really nice newsletter, which I can show anyone if they're interested. And we also support and do local bird surveys for farmers who are interested, and Wisley Garden and West Horsley Place, the opera place from there. So those are all monthly. So that's our bit for conservation as well. I'm not into digging holes, I'm much more into bird watching, so that's what I do. Right, that's me, done. I've got some stuff here which you're all welcome to. Any questions, anything I help with? I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
You can see this crowd here is very enthused by that bird, so you must have questions. Who's going to kick us off? Yep.
I was going to say you, but actually my wife has for the last 20, 30 years perhaps been writing down birds that we see in the book. Just the first time we see it, each time that winter.
Yep.
And it's very obvious, and probably to everyone else, that small birds have been disappearing. And we get crows and rooks and God knows what, magpies. And they've even learned how to fly on the bird feeder, which they never used to. Do you know why small birds have been pushed out, the big ones coming? What's the reason?
It's funny.
I keep reading different things.
Yes. So the science is still developing, which is shorthand for nobody really knows. What one does not push out the other. They've lived in harmony for 1 million years. The balance has been right. Something's upsetting the balance, which is encouraging one and not encouraging the other. So it's not one's bigger, one's bullying. It's just that's not how it works. They've been in equilibrium forever. The most obvious is the way farming practices are changing. So double crops, much better, more efficient harvesting, less seed left, pesticides, fungicides, all those sort of things, not just poisoning but killing bugs and so on, seem to me the obvious culprits. And there is some science that supports that. And the RSPB supports a range of initiatives with farmers. Some of them are farmers on the RSPB estate, where they are changing their practices to keep the farm financially sustainable and productive, but also to encourage the bird numbers to come up. Things like hedgerows, clearing hedgerows, great way to get rid of all the small birds in farmland. Put up a fence, get rid of all the hedgerows. There's nowhere for them to hide, there's none of the winter food. A lot of it comes down to food, which I think that's a sensible answer. Does that make sense?
So they're coming in the garden, the big ones now, because they're
overall, the numbers of the small ones are going down, like down. So there's more and the big ones are smarter, big brains, and cleverer. So they're more adaptable to, discovering bird feeders and rubbish dumps and sewage farms and all the things that are human that they succeed in. You're a goldfinch and you eat thistle heads. You've not much room for manoeuvre. So I think that's what I think.
Goldfinches, they were wiped out in our area from what I can see. Do you know if they're making a comeback after the disease
the goldfinches and greenfinches are very affected by this.
I mean, sorry, I meant
trichomonas. I forget what the disease that's getting them.
Yes.
It's still prevalent. I don't think it's been as damaging as bird flu, which has wiped out whole colonies of terns and things. But it has had a big impact on them. It's still prevalent. the disease. The RSPB, I was talking to the guys in Pulborough, the RSPB now recommends no ground feeding because that will spread the disease, because you can't clean the ground, and if you've got a diseased bird, so no flat, not ground, but flat feeding, you know, flat bird tables. Cleaning your bird feeders helps them, but I don't actually know the cause of it, but I know it's still causing issues.
So is there any sign of recovery anywhere?
I honestly don't know the answer. I think the numbers are still declining. Be interesting to see what the Big Garden Birdwatch says for this year's numbers, but I honestly don't know, I'm afraid.
So we've got a garden in England, I want to encourage as many different types of birds as possible, without spending a fortune on every variety of food. What would you suggest is the best?
The first thing is if you how it's planted. So not clearing up. You know, I'm not saying you have to do this, but if you clear everything up, which we incline to do in our garden, all the seed heads and all the potential food. And a bit of the odd weed and nettles and that kind of stuff. That's really good for the birds. Bit of cover, bit of untidiness. There's some really good plants, you know, things that attract bugs, bees, the ivy, holly, all those sort of native things are forever support birds without spending anything every year. The water is really important. Fresh, clean water, especially when it gets really cold, because that's really important to them. In terms of food, it's as much or as little as you want. The shelled sunflower seeds seem to be really good mix for the birds in my garden, and they're not terribly. You can source them relatively effectively. Fat balls are very popular, and you can do that with old cooking fat and other stuff. Bread's a no-no because it's not good for them. Rice is a no-no, it's not good for them. But by way of a summary, does that make sense? A mix of not being as clean as you might. Clean sounds wrong, but as tidy as one normally would be, will have a big difference. I'm a bit stuck. I'm in an estate and there's lots of cats. So I do get the occasional opportunity to see a rook trying to make the feeder work, which is a comedy moment not to be missed. But I hope that helps.
I think we've got lots of feeder stories in this area.
I'm not in London when sparrows were weak on the bird, and they kind of vanished. Any idea why that happened and why they haven't back?
It's interesting. The London, back in the day, isn't an obvious bird. It's not an obvious bird draw. But after the war, it's not quite sparrows, but we'll come to that. After the war, London was a really good site for black redstarts. Black redstarts they eat insects, come in the summer, and you often find them on beaches and rubble and that kind of stuff. So all the bomb sites were perfect black redstart territories. I actually seen one at Battersea Power Station, not Battersea, the other one, Bankside Power Station, when there were some ruined buildings at the back of it. So for the house sparrows, there was probably enough weeds on either bomb sites or not developed sites around London, or enough to keep them there. But as it got spread and bigger and cleaner and fixed for humans, so there was less. It's back to food again, which is what's really important. So I think practices are changing, and people are much more appreciative of birds and feeding them. Thank you. And sparrows, that's what's bringing sparrows' numbers up. They're colonial, they like groups, and everyone needs food and water.
Sparrows tend to like lots of hedges, don't they? Because we get loads of birds in our garden, but we never get sparrows.
Sparrows they're colonial, so they like to be together. They nest together,
yes.
and they really like cover.
Yes,
So
and you do hear them when you're walking up Boxhill in the hedges. You
Yeah.
can hear them, but not in our garden.
Yeah.
We've got laurel hedge, but I mean, it's not the kind of hedge.
Squirrels.
Kill them all! There's a woman in Cumbria who is, because Cumbria is the boundary with the red squirrel, she's so taken against them, her husband shoots them and she cooks them and sells them to get people in, because they taste really good apparently, cooked properly. I am with you. But I'm in much the same camp as that woman. Sorry, you had a question, Paul?
That's a question. I mean, how many squirrels can you have in your garden before they really start having an impact on the birds? I mean, I know it's a weird question.
It's interesting. They only impact them in terms of them eating more of your food than the birds can. And so then you get into how can you best squirrel-proof your feeder, and the answer is you can't, because squirrels are smart and athletic, and we've all seen the videos of what they can do.
No, I'm thinking about that, but do they actually go to the nests or eggs?
Everyone eats everyone. You know, woodpeckers, squirrels, they'll all take eggs when they can. But it's back to the point about the big ones pushing the little ones out. It's been, grey squirrels are different because they shouldn't be here, but they've been balanced for some time, and it's kind of a dog-eat-dog. It's nature, you know. So they will a few if they're hungry. It's not their preference. Magpies and woodpeckers much more prone to.
Following on from squirrels, ring-necked parrots.
Well, I'm not a big fan of anything that shouldn't be here, but actually, I discovered that pheasants. I think I can't remember the number, but it's either 3 million or 30 million pheasants are bred and released every year, and that those pheasants that are released every year weigh more than all our other native birds put together. If you had a big scale, in 1 year, those pheasants would weigh more than all the native birds. Now, how much damage is that doing? So, top of my list, stop doing that. Then people have begun to study the impact parakeets have, but I'm sure they must damage the jackdaws and some of my favourites. Not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Canada geese, but you should hear the gardeners talk about the Canada geese in Wisley. They're really not big fans, because I don't have gardens that the Canada geese shit all over, you know. And Wisley, it's a problem. But you know, Egyptian geese, parakeets. There's a long list of stuff that shouldn't be here. The government did take action maybe 10 years ago now on the ruddy duck. The ruddy duck, where an American bird escaped, was doing very well, and had started to interbreed with the white-tailed duck in Spain, and was so successful and interbreeding, it was in danger of completely extinguishing all pure white-tailed ducks. So they had a culling program, and I don't think there are any ruddy ducks left, because they shouldn't be here either. I'd just like them to stop releasing pheasants.
I think time for one more. We have just 5 minutes over at the moment. One more, yeah.
We have a visiting pair. They've been coming, geese, but we can't tell what they are. They started coming in about a week before Christmas. Every morning,
they're not
geese on the street. They're not Canada geese, I know that. On our street, they're very, very white-bodied with black wings. Just one pair. They come every morning. They go down onto the street, and then off they go again.
Because we get grey lags, and we get domestic grey lags as well, that look white. They have a big orange nose.
Pink legs.
Yeah, very pink legs. I
I don't know. But I'll show you some geese pictures and you can tell me.
Okay, yeah. Because we've looked in every book and we just can't find what they are.
I refer you to my comments about ducks, because they all
Exactly.
On my bird list for this year, I have one dodgy one, which is a hybrid barnacle goose, half barnacle, half Canada. Very bright shape for a barnacle goose, but funny face. You know, it's a bit dodgy, but it's on my list. But we'll have a look, see what we can what it comes up with.
Well, I think that's been quite an amazing talk, Glenn, and it's perfect for the Big Back Garden Birdwatch coming up this weekend. I think a measure of a good talk is how quickly it goes, and that one went really fast, I think, for me anyway. Thank you so much for sharing your expert knowledge and also conveying something of your passion, and I think that came across really, really well. I'm sure many of us are infected and we'll go out and do our best this weekend. Thank you very much, Glenn. And remember, this is a two-parter because there's a walk now at Buckland Lake on February 2nd. If you want to join us, it's an afternoon walk, 1 to 3 o'clock. It's free, thanks to the generosity of the Buckland estate. Just sign your name here and your email address. And thank you all for coming. You're a fantastic audience. And, well, obviously a lot of enthusiasm for birds in the 4Bs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn, very much.
Coaching would be great.